In the silence of the night, when the screens go dark and the noise of the world finally settles, many people lie awake with a heavy heart. A quiet ache lingers in the chest, though nothing seems visibly wrong. Life looks full on the outside work, family, friends, social media smiles, but inside there is a hidden emptiness. Stress never seems to end. Worries about money never loosen their grip. Relationships that once felt alive sometimes turn into a battlefield or a cold distance. Anxiety rises without warning. It feels as if no matter how much effort is poured into chasing happiness, something is always missing. This is the silent crisis of modern life, a suffering often hidden behind polite greetings and busy schedules. The truth is, many people are exhausted. Exhausted not only in body, but in spirit. Exhausted from pretending to be okay while carrying a storm within. And yet, the world keeps demanding more achievements, more productivity, more progress, more success. This endless demand leaves little room for peace, for true rest, for the gentle joy of simply being alive. It is here, in this painful reality, that an ancient wisdom quietly waits. For thousands of years, the teachings of the Buddha have spoken to the same human struggles that still haunt us today. The language may be old, the setting may be distant, but the heart of the message is timeless. It is not a call to worship, not a demand for blind belief, but an invitation, a door opening toward freedom. Freedom from the relentless cycle of stress. Freedom from the tight grip of fear. Freedom from the confusion of searching outside for what can only be found within. This journey is not about escaping life. It is not about running away from responsibilities or abandoning the world. It is about turning toward the truth of suffering, seeing it clearly, and discovering a new way to walk through it with wisdom and compassion. Like a lantern in a dark forest, the Dharma illuminates the path. It does not remove every stone or bend every branch, but it shows the way to walk without fear, without getting lost, with a heart that grows lighter step by step. For those listening now, perhaps you carry a pain that words cannot fully describe. Perhaps you long for a peace that seems always out of reach. This is where the journey begins, not by pretending that pain is not there, but by facing it gently with honesty. The teachings you are about to hear are not theories for philosophers. They are living tools, practical and real, designed for people like you and me who must face the storm of daily life. Each part of this journey will shine light on a common wound of modern existence: stress, money, relationships, anxiety, and more. And for each wound, there will be a medicine drawn from the well of Buddhist wisdom: mindfulness, compassion, letting go, right understanding. These are not distant ideals. They are practices that can breathe life back into tired hearts. Let us begin together. Let us step gently into this exploration. With each story, each teaching, each reflection, may you find not just answers, but a deep recognition, a remembering of what your soul has always known, that peace is not far away. It has been waiting quietly within you all along. There is a weight that many people carry, but rarely admit out loud. It is the weight of constant stress. From the moment the alarm clock rings in the morning, the race begins. Emails, deadlines, bills, traffic, children to care for, expectations to meet. The mind feels like a crowded highway where thoughts collide, honk, and speed past without pause. Even when the body rests at night, the mind rarely does. Thoughts keep running, voices keep whispering, and tomorrow's worries arrive long before the sun rises. Stress has become so common that people begin to believe it is normal. They tell themselves, everyone is busy. Everyone is tired. Everyone feels this pressure. And yet deep down, there is a recognition that something is not right. Human beings were not designed to live in a constant state of tension, always anticipating the next crisis, always on the edge of exhaustion. Stress is not just a feeling. It seeps into the body, into the heart, into the way we relate to others. It turns joy into irritability, connection into impatience, health into illness. It is like a slow poison, invisible but powerful, shaping every choice and every moment. Imagine a person standing in a storm, holding an umbrella that barely covers them. The rain pours harder, the wind blows stronger, and the umbrella begins to shake. This is how stress feels. No matter how hard one tries to shield themselves, life keeps raining down demands and challenges. And with time, the arms grow tired, the umbrella grows weaker, and the person feels ready to collapse. The modern world has created an endless cycle of stress. The workplace demands constant productivity. Social media creates an illusion of comparison, where every person seems happier, richer, more successful. Families struggle under the weight of financial pressure. Children feel the tension of parents who are always rushing, always distracted. Even moments meant for rest are interrupted by the buzz of a phone or the flash of a screen. True stillness feels almost impossible. Why does stress hold such power? Part of the answer lies in the way the mind clings to control. The human mind wants certainty. It wants to plan every outcome, to predict every possibility, to ensure that nothing will go wrong. But life refuses to be controlled. Life is unpredictable, messy, full of surprises. When the mind cannot accept this truth, it creates an endless struggle. Stress is born from the gap between what we want life to be and what life actually is. Think about a river. If you try to stop its current with your hands, you will exhaust yourself. The water keeps flowing no matter how strong your grip. Stress is like trying to hold back that river. It drains energy, it creates frustration, and it never truly works. The river does not stop. Only when you learn to float, to move with the current, do you begin to experience peace. This is where the wisdom of the Buddha offers a radical perspective. Instead of fighting stress, instead of trying to control the uncontrollable, the teachings invite us to pause, to breathe, to see clearly. Stress thrives in a mind that is scattered between past and future. Regret pulls us backward. Fear pushes us forward. Rarely do we land in the present moment, the only place where life actually happens. Mindfulness is the practice of returning home to this moment, again and again, no matter how many times we drift away. When the Buddha spoke of suffering, he was not speaking only of great tragedies or dramatic pain. He was pointing to the daily unease, the subtle dissatisfaction, the tension that hums beneath the surface of ordinary life. Stress is one form of this suffering. And like all forms of suffering, it has a cause and it has a path leading out. The cause is attachment, the clinging to control, the craving for certainty, the resistance to change. The path out is awareness, acceptance, and gentle release. Imagine sitting quietly with your breath. At first, the mind protests. Thoughts rush in, tasks appear. The body feels restless. But slowly, with patience, the breath becomes an anchor. Each inhale reminds you that you are alive. Each exhale releases a little bit of the weight you carry. This simple act, repeated with sincerity, begins to soften the grip of stress. It is not magic. It does not erase all problems, but it changes the way you meet them. Instead of being crushed by pressure, you begin to hold space for it, to allow it, to respond with calm instead of panic. Consider the story of a worker who felt overwhelmed by deadlines. Every day, he rushed through his tasks, his chest tight, his head aching. One evening, exhausted, he stumbled upon a meditation group. Curious, he sat with them. At first, the silence was unbearable. His thoughts screamed louder than ever. But the teacher gently said, "Do not fight your mind. Simply notice your breath." He tried again. He noticed the air entering his nose, filling his lungs, leaving his body. For a few seconds, the storm inside grew quiet. That moment was small, but it was real. He returned the next day and the next. Over time, his relationship with stress changed. The deadlines remained, the demands continued, but his heart carried more space. His mind held more clarity. His body felt lighter. This is the power of mindfulness. It does not remove the challenges of life. It transforms the way we meet them. Stress loses its power when we stop feeding it with constant resistance and fear. When we stand still in the storm, breathing, grounded, aware, we discover a strength that no external circumstance can destroy. Of course, this path is not easy. Modern culture celebrates busyness, not stillness. To pause feels like weakness. To rest feels like laziness. But the Buddha's wisdom turns this idea upside down. True courage is not pushing through exhaustion until the body collapses. True courage is stopping, looking deeply, and choosing a new way. It is the courage to face stress not with denial, but with gentle honesty. Every time we return to the present moment, we take one step out of the prison of stress. Every time we let go of control, we release a chain from around the heart. Every time we breathe with awareness, we water the seeds of peace within us. Slowly, the storm loses its fury. Slowly, the river carries us instead of drowning us. And yet, there is more to learn. Stress is only one face of suffering. Beneath it lies a deeper issue, our relationship with time itself. We live chained to the past and enslaved by the future. We measure our worth by the ticking of a clock. We grieve the moments already lost and fear those yet to come. This obsession with time fuels stress, anxiety, and endless dissatisfaction. To understand stress fully, we must also look at how time shapes our suffering. And so, the next step in our journey leads us there, to the chains of time and the freedom that lies beyond them. Stress is often described as the enemy of peace, but in truth, stress is not the enemy. Stress is a signal. It is the body's way of saying, something is out of balance. Something needs attention. When we fight stress, we tighten the knot. When we listen to stress, we begin to untie it. Listening does not mean giving in to panic. It means pausing long enough to ask, what am I holding on to too tightly? What story am I telling myself that keeps me trapped in fear? What expectation am I trying to force on life that life refuses to meet? The Buddha once compared the human mind to a lute string. If the string is pulled too tight, it breaks. If it is too loose, it makes no sound. Balance is the key. Stress is the sound of a string pulled too tight. The practice of mindfulness, compassion, and letting go is like tuning the string until it sings with harmony. We cannot remove every challenge from life, but we can learn to meet those challenges with balance instead of breaking under them. In daily life, stress often shows up in small, unnoticed ways. A clenched jaw during a meeting. A racing heartbeat when the phone rings. A sharp word spoken to a loved one after a long day. These moments may seem minor, but over time they accumulate. The body stores them. The heart remembers them. Slowly, the weight grows heavier. To heal stress, we must not wait until the breaking point. We must learn to notice the signs early, to respond with kindness rather than suppression. Consider the image of a glass of water. Hold it for a minute, and it feels light. Hold it for an hour, and your arm aches. Hold it all day, and the pain becomes unbearable. Stress works in the same way. The problem is not the glass of water. It is the length of time we refuse to put it down. Mindfulness teaches us to put the glass down, even if only for a breath, a moment, a pause. Each pause restores strength. Each release prevents collapse. Some people believe that stress is the price of success. They think that without pressure, nothing great can be achieved. But this is a dangerous illusion. Stress does not create true success. It creates burnout. It creates broken relationships. It creates a life that looks full but feels empty. True success is not measured by how much we endure, but by how deeply we live. The Buddhist teachings remind us that inner peace is not separate from outer achievement. When the mind is calm, when the heart is steady, we work with clarity. We speak with compassion. We create not from fear, but from wisdom. In this way, peace and productivity are not enemies. They are partners. There is a story of a farmer who worked his fields from dawn until midnight, convinced that every minute of rest was wasted. His crops grew, but his health declined. His family felt neglected, and his spirit grew dry. One day, a wise monk told him, "The earth does not grow because you pull the plants. It grows because you water, you nourish, you wait." The farmer realized that his endless striving was not creating life, but destroying it. He began to balance work with stillness, effort with rest. And slowly, both his fields and his heart began to flourish. This balance is the medicine for stress. Not withdrawal, not apathy, but balance. To breathe deeply while working. To pause in the middle of chaos. To remember that life is not only about arriving at a destination, but also about experiencing the journey. Stress convinces us that peace will come later after the task is finished, after the money is earned, after the problem is solved. The Dharma teaches us that peace is available now, in this very breath, even as we walk through challenges. But perhaps the greatest challenge of stress is its hidden voice, the whisper that says, "You are not enough." Beneath the deadlines and the pressure lies a deeper wound, the belief that we must constantly prove our worth, that rest must be earned, that love must be deserved. This belief drives endless striving. It is the silent root of modern exhaustion. The Buddhist teachings cut through this illusion with a simple truth. You are already enough. Your worth is not defined by your productivity, your possessions, or your perfection. Your worth is intrinsic, like the sky that remains vast and whole, no matter how many clouds pass through it. When we begin to trust this truth, stress loses its grip. We no longer chase peace as something to achieve. We rest in peace as something we already carry. This shift does not happen overnight. It happens breath by breath, moment by moment, as we practice turning inward, listening deeply, and releasing gently. For some, this practice begins with meditation. For others, it begins with walking in nature, breathing slowly, or simply closing the eyes for a few seconds in the middle of a busy day. The form is less important than the intention. To return, to pause, to come home to the present. Each time we do, we weaken the chains of stress. Each time we do, we remember that life is not meant to be a battlefield of constant struggle, but a sacred unfolding. And so, part 1 closes with this reminder. Stress is not destiny. Stress is a teacher. It is the voice that tells us something must change. If we listen, if we open, if we practice, stress can guide us toward freedom. Freedom not from life, but within life. Freedom not after the storm, but inside the storm. Yet, as we have touched upon, stress is deeply tied to time. We rush because we fear running out. We worry because we replay the past and dread the future. We measure ourselves against clocks and calendars until life feels like a race with no finish line. To truly free ourselves, we must look at this deeper chain, the illusion of time that binds our hearts. That is where our journey continues, into the nature of time and the liberation that comes when we step beyond it. So much of human suffering is tied to time. We carry the past like a heavy backpack filled with regrets, mistakes, and memories that still sting. We carry the future like a bag of stones filled with fears, expectations, and endless what-ifs. Between these two weights, the present moment often disappears. We live as if life is always happening somewhere else, yesterday or tomorrow, while today slips silently through our fingers. The pressure of time is everywhere. The clock on the wall, the calendar on the desk, the schedule on the phone. We measure our worth by how much we can fit into a day, how much we can accomplish in an hour. We rush to work, rush through meals, rush through conversations. And when the day is done, we collapse into bed, wondering where the hours went, wondering why peace never arrived. This obsession with time creates a quiet panic. It tells us we are always behind, always late, always running out. It whispers that we must hurry, or we will miss something important, that life is slipping away, that we are never enough. No wonder stress grows. No wonder anxiety thrives. When life is lived as a race against the clock, the heart never rests. Imagine a person standing at the seashore, holding a jar, trying to capture every wave before it disappears. Impossible. The waves come and go, endless, uncontrollable. Yet this is how we treat time. We try to hold on to each moment, afraid of losing it, afraid of wasting it. But like waves, moments cannot be stored. They can only be experienced as they arrive and released as they pass. Buddha spoke of impermanence as a fundamental truth of existence. Everything arises, everything fades. Moments, like breaths, cannot be frozen. When we resist this truth, when we try to cling to the past or control the future, suffering is born. But when we embrace impermanence, a great freedom appears. We no longer need to grasp. We no longer need to race. We simply live fully in the now. Think of a child playing in a park. They are not worried about yesterday's mistake or tomorrow's duty. They are completely absorbed in the swing, the slide, the laughter of the moment. This natural presence is the freedom that adults often lose, trapped in the chains of time. Yet it is not lost forever. It can be remembered, cultivated, lived again. Right now, as you listen, notice your breath. Notice the rise of your chest, the fall of your chest. Notice the sounds around you, the weight of your body, the beating of your heart. This is the present moment. It does not ask you to fix the past. It does not demand that you control the future. It only invites you to be here. The chains of time loosen, if only for a second, and peace flows in. But why is it so hard to stay here? Why does the mind constantly run back and forth between past and future? Part of the reason is fear. We fear that if we stop thinking about the past, we will repeat our mistakes. We fear that if we stop planning the future, disaster will strike. The mind believes it is protecting us. But in truth, the mind is creating endless suffering. Like a guard dog that never stops barking, it keeps us on edge, unable to rest. The teachings of mindfulness do not ask us to erase memory or abandon responsibility. They ask us to notice when the mind is trapped in stories and to return gently to the present. We can remember the past without living in regret. We can plan for the future without drowning in worry. The key is balance. The key is presence. Consider the story of a young woman who lost her job. She replayed the moment of being fired again and again, punishing herself with thoughts of what she could have done differently. At the same time, she worried endlessly about the future, how she would pay rent, how she would survive. Her nights were sleepless, her days filled with panic. One day, she attended a meditation retreat. The teacher guided her to breathe, to feel her body sitting on the cushion, to notice the sensations of each moment. Slowly, she realized that in this moment, she was safe. In this moment, she had enough. In this moment, nothing was missing. The fear did not vanish instantly, but it softened. She learned to meet each day as it came, one breath at a time. In that practice, she discovered a strength she had forgotten. This is the liberation that comes from breaking free of time's chains. Life is no longer a race. Life is no longer measured by clocks or haunted by ghosts of the past. Life becomes simple, direct, alive. The Buddha once said that to live mindfully is to dwell as if one were already free. This does not mean ignoring responsibilities. Bills must still be paid, work must still be done, relationships must still be cared for. But when we meet these tasks with presence, instead of panic, everything changes. Washing dishes becomes a meditation. Walking to work becomes a prayer. Conversations become deeper, meals become richer. Even ordinary moments shine with peace. And yet, the pull of time is strong. Society tells us that slowing down is failure, that rest is wasted time. Advertisements promise that happiness lies in the next product, the next achievement, the next tomorrow. But the Dharma whispers a different truth. Happiness is not later. Happiness is now. Joy is not something to chase. Joy is something to allow. To step out of time is not to abandon life, but to truly live it. It is to taste the food instead of rushing through it. It is to hear the laughter of a friend instead of checking the phone. It is to notice the beauty of the sky, the sound of rain, the softness of a breath. These simple acts, repeated daily, dissolve the chains of time. Still, the question arises, if impermanence is real, if everything changes, how do we face loss? How do we accept endings? How do we live fully when we know that everything we love will pass? This is the next layer of suffering, the next lesson on our journey, the dance of change, and the peace that comes when we embrace it. Time is a mystery that both fascinates and terrifies us. We try to measure it, control it, and use it as if it belongs to us. But in truth, time belongs to no one. It flows with or without our permission. The clock does not ask for our opinion. The calendar does not wait for our consent. We are travelers, carried along by a river that never pauses. And yet, we act as if we can bargain with it, as if we can force it to bend to our will. This illusion creates endless pain. Think about birthdays. For children, they are filled with joy cake, gifts, laughter, a celebration of growing up. But as adults, birthdays often carry a shadow. Each year feels like a reminder that time is running out, that youth is fading, that the clock is ticking. What was once a celebration becomes a source of anxiety. Why? Because we believe time is an enemy stealing our lives away. We forget that every year is also a gift, that impermanence is not just loss, but also renewal. Without time, no flower would bloom, no child would grow, no moment of love would exist. The passing of time is not just an ending, it is also the reason we can experience beginnings. The Buddha taught that freedom comes not from denying time, but from seeing it clearly. Past, present, and future are not solid realities. They are movements of the mind. The past is memory. The future is imagination. Only the present is real. Yet most people spend their entire lives living in memories and dreams, missing the only place where life truly happens. The mind travels endlessly, but the body is always here, now. To awaken is to bring mind and body back together, to live fully where we are. Imagine two people walking through a garden. One is lost in thought, worrying about yesterday's argument or tomorrow's meeting. The flowers bloom all around, but they do not see them. The other person walks with presence, feeling the sun on their skin, noticing the fragrance of the roses, listening to the sound of the birds. Both walk the same path, but only one truly lives it. This is the difference between being chained to time and being free in the present. Yet, freedom is not just about savoring pleasant moments. It is also about meeting pain with awareness. When we cling to the idea that painful moments should not exist, time becomes a tyrant. We replay heartbreaks, hoping they will change. We anticipate losses, fearing they will come. But when we accept that pain, like joy, is impermanent, we stop fighting reality. Grief comes, and we feel it, but we know it will pass. Joy comes, and we enjoy it, but we know it will also pass. Nothing is permanent, and that is not a tragedy. It is a gift. Impermanence gives life its depth, its urgency, its beauty. There is a story from the Buddha's life that illustrates this truth. A woman named Kisagotami lost her only child. In her grief, she went to the Buddha, begging him to bring the child back. The Buddha told her to bring a mustard seed from any house where no one had ever died. She searched from home to home, but in every family, death had visited. At last, she realized that loss is universal, that no one escapes impermanence. In that realization, her grief transformed. She did not stop loving her child, but she stopped fighting the truth of life. She stepped out of the prison of time and into the freedom of acceptance. This story is not meant to dismiss our pain. Loss hurts. Change can break the heart. But when we see that everything is subject to change, we no longer feel singled out or cursed. We see that our suffering is part of the human condition. And in that seeing, compassion grows. We become softer, kinder, more patient with ourselves and with others. How does this relate to stress and time in daily life? When we resist impermanence, every change feels like a crisis. The aging of the body, the shifting of relationships, the uncertainty of the future, each becomes a source of panic. But when we embrace impermanence, we discover resilience. We know that pain will not last forever. We know that joy must be cherished while it is here. We stop wasting energy on trying to freeze time, and we start living in harmony with it. Think of autumn leaves. They blaze with color, then fall to the ground. No one curses the tree for changing. We accept it as natural. Yet when our own lives change, we struggle. We cling to the summer of youth, the blossoms of success, the green of security. But life, like the seasons, must flow. When we learn to see ourselves like the tree rooted, yet ever-changing, we find peace in the cycle. In practical terms, breaking free from the chains of time means cultivating presence in small ways. It means pausing during the day to notice your breath. It means eating a meal without rushing, tasting each bite. It means setting down the phone and giving your full attention to a loved one. It means allowing yourself to rest without guilt, remembering that rest is not wasted time, but sacred time. These small practices are revolutionary. They remind us that life is not measured by speed, but by depth. The irony is that when we live in the present, we actually become more effective. Stress weakens focus. Worry scatters energy. But presence gathers strength. When we are here, fully here, our actions carry power. We listen more deeply. We work with clarity. We love more freely. Life becomes less about chasing the next moment and more about inhabiting this one. And so, Part 2 draws to its close with a simple invitation. Let go of the illusion of time. Do not abandon your responsibilities, but stop letting the clock define your worth. Remember that the past cannot be changed, the future cannot be controlled, and the present is always enough. When you free yourself from the chains of time, you step into the true miracle of life, the miracle of now. But another question still lingers. If everything changes, if nothing lasts, how can we find stability? How can we find peace when even joy fades and even love ends? This leads us to the next stage of the journey, where we will explore the dance of change itself and how to find freedom, not by resisting it, but by embracing it with open arms. Change is the one truth we cannot escape. No matter how tightly we cling, everything shifts, everything moves, everything transforms. And yet, so much of human suffering arises from resisting this truth. We want youth to stay, relationships to remain the same, health to never fade, success to last forever. But life refuses to obey our wishes. Seasons change, bodies change, circumstances change. Even the thoughts in our minds and the emotions in our hearts change from moment to moment. Still, we hold on as if permanence were possible. This clinging is the root of great pain. Imagine standing on the bank of a river. The water flows steadily, carrying twigs, leaves, reflections of clouds. You reach down and try to grab a handful, but the water slips through your fingers. You cannot stop it. The river keeps moving. This is the nature of life. Yet instead of allowing the river to flow, most people spend their lives trying to capture it, to freeze it, to make it stay. The result is frustration, disappointment, and sorrow. The Buddha taught impermanence not as a threat, but as a liberation. He invited us to see that because everything changes, nothing is fixed. Because nothing is fixed, there is always hope. A moment of anger can dissolve into calm. A season of grief can soften into healing. A life of confusion can awaken into clarity. Impermanence means that no state, no feeling, no circumstance defines us forever. It is both the challenge and the gift of being alive, but accepting change is not easy. We are creatures of habit. We find comfort in routine, in familiarity, in stability. When something shifts, even something small, it unsettles us. Think of moving to a new home, starting a new job, or entering a new relationship. Excitement may be there, but so is fear. We fear the unknown. We fear loss. We fear letting go of what once felt safe. And yet, life insists. Change is the only constant. One of the most painful forms of change is loss. The loss of a loved one, the loss of health, the loss of dreams we once carried. Loss feels like the ground giving way beneath our feet. It leaves us disoriented, desperate to hold on to what is already gone. But grief, as heavy as it feels, is also a teacher. It reminds us that life is precious precisely because it is fragile. We love deeply because we know that nothing lasts forever. We cherish moments because we know they will pass. Without impermanence, love would lose its urgency, and joy would lose its sweetness. There is a story told of a king who asked his advisors for a phrase that would be true in every situation, whether joyful or tragic. After much thought, they brought him these words, "This too shall pass." The king found comfort in them during his darkest hours, but he also found wisdom in them during his greatest triumphs. For both sorrow and joy, both success and failure, both life and death all pass. This is the nature of existence. When we resist this truth, we suffer. We cling to youth as wrinkles appear. We cling to relationships that have already ended in spirit. We cling to identities that no longer fit who we are. This clinging is like holding on to a rope while being dragged across the ground. Our hands bleed, our body aches, but still we refuse to let go. True freedom comes when we release the rope, when we accept that change has come, when we allow life to flow in its natural direction. The Buddha compared this to a house on fire. If the house is burning, and we refuse to leave because we love its walls and windows, we perish inside. But if we accept that the house is gone and step outside, we survive. Change may burn away what we love, but it also opens the door to something new. What feels like an ending may be the beginning of a transformation we cannot yet see. Even in the small details of life, impermanence reveals itself. A favorite meal tastes delicious, but the flavor fades. A joyful conversation ends when the phone call disconnects. A beautiful sunset vanishes as night falls. Each moment arises, stays briefly, and disappears. When we cling, we miss the beauty. When we accept, we enjoy it fully, knowing it is a gift, not a possession. To live in harmony with change is to dance with life rather than fight it. It is to learn flexibility, resilience, and trust. A tree that refuses to bend in the wind will break. A tree that bends survives the storm. The same is true for us. If we remain rigid, demanding that life meet our expectations, we will break under its weight. But if we learn to bend, to move, to adapt, we will endure and even flourish. But how do we practice this in daily life? How do we actually learn to embrace change rather than resist it? The answer begins with awareness. Notice when you are clinging. Notice when you say, "I cannot let this go." Notice when you feel fear rising at the thought of things being different. Awareness is the first step. Once we see clearly, we can begin to loosen our grip. The practice of meditation offers a direct experience of impermanence. Sit quietly and watch your breath. Notice how each inhale arises, lingers, and fades. Notice how each exhale follows the same pattern. No breath stays. No breath can be held forever. Life itself is built on this rhythm of arising and passing away. By observing the breath, we learn to trust impermanence not as an enemy, but as the natural flow of existence in time. This practice changes the way we meet life. Instead of panicking when things shift, we remember, this is the nature of all things. Instead of clinging desperately, we soften and release. Instead of fearing endings, we honor them as part of the greater cycle. This is not resignation. It is not apathy. It is a deep wisdom that allows us to live more fully, love more deeply, and suffer less when change comes. And yet, impermanence is not only about loss. It is also about renewal. Just as night turns to day, winter turns to spring, grief can turn to joy. No matter how dark the night, dawn always arrives. This truth brings hope. It tells us that pain is never final, that despair is never the whole story, that transformation is always possible. So, as we move deeper into this journey, let us remember, change is not a curse. Change is life itself. When we resist, we suffer. When we embrace, we are free. And as we learn to live with this wisdom, another truth becomes clear. We cannot walk this path entirely alone. At some point, we need a mirror, a companion, a friend who reflects our true self back to us. This leads us to the next stage of the journey, the sacred mirror of friendship. And the healing power it holds. Change is not only external, it is within us. Our bodies change daily, cell by cell, breath by breath. The face we see in the mirror is not the same as it was 10 years ago, not even the same as yesterday. And yet, most people relate to themselves as if they were fixed, as if the me from the past must remain exactly the same today. This illusion creates suffering. When we cannot accept that our body ages, that our desires shift, that our identity evolves, we struggle. But when we see that even the self is fluid, our relationship with life becomes lighter. Consider the seasons of human life. Childhood is full of wonder. Adolescence bursts with energy and confusion. Adulthood carries responsibility. Old age brings wisdom and fragility. Each stage has its gifts, its challenges, its lessons. Yet many try to cling to one stage forever. Some mourn the loss of youth. Others resist the responsibilities of adulthood. Still others fear the decline of age. But if we accept each stage as part of the dance, we live more fully. We laugh when it is time to laugh. We grieve when it is time to grieve. We rest when it is time to rest. Each moment becomes precious because it cannot last. In the Buddhist tradition, monks sometimes meditate in cemeteries or reflect on the decay of the body. This may sound morbid, but it is not meant to create fear. It is meant to create freedom. By facing impermanence directly, they loosen the grip of attachment. They learn to cherish life while it is here, without clinging as if it were eternal. This practice teaches that nothing, no possession, no achievement, no identity can truly be held forever. What remains is not despair, but gratitude. Gratitude for this breath, this meal, this conversation, this fleeting but radiant gift of being alive. Imagine holding a delicate flower in your hand. If you crush it, trying to make it last, it dies. If you admire it briefly and let it go, it remains beautiful in memory. Life is the same. When we cling, we destroy the beauty. When we let go, we carry the beauty in our hearts without pain. This letting go is not coldness. It is love in its truest form, a love that does not demand possession, a love that celebrates the freedom of all things, even relationships. Perhaps the most tender parts of our lives are subject to change. Friendships shift, families evolve, love stories transform. To demand that they remain exactly as they once were is to set ourselves up for heartbreak. But if we accept that people grow, that paths diverge, that endings are natural, we can love more openly while the connection exists. We can say thank you when it is time to part, instead of clinging desperately to what is already gone. This does not make goodbye easy, but it makes it bearable, filled with compassion rather than resentment. There is a teaching that says, to love without clinging is to love with freedom. This means enjoying the company of another while remembering that they too are changing, that life will carry them forward in ways we cannot control. Instead of holding on with fear, we hold with care. We do not trap the bird in a cage. We let it fly and we cherish the song while it lasts. But embracing change does not mean becoming passive. It does not mean giving up on growth or ignoring suffering. On the contrary, when we accept impermanence, we find the courage to act wisely. We take care of our health because we know the body is fragile. We nurture relationships because we know they are precious. We use time well because we know it will not return. This is not despair, it is urgency, the urgency of love and presence. A man once asked a Zen master, "What is the most important teaching?" The master replied, "An inch of time is worth an inch of gold, but an inch of time cannot be bought with an inch of gold." This points to the reality that our moments are more valuable than any possession. Change reminds us of this truth. Every passing moment is a treasure we cannot buy back. To embrace change is to use each moment well, to live it with clarity and compassion. When storms of change arrive, illness, loss, uncertainty, the practice of mindfulness becomes a refuge. Sit, breathe, and remember, this too shall pass. The pain may feel unbearable, but like all things, it will change. And in that remembering, a small space opens in the heart. A space of patience, a space of strength, a space of trust. The poet Rumi once wrote, "Try not to resist life's changes. The soul loves to swim in the ocean of transformation." This is the essence of the Buddhist teaching on impermanence. When we stop fighting, we start swimming. When we let go of the need for permanence, we discover the joy of flow. Life becomes less about holding and more about moving gracefully, like a dancer who trusts the rhythm of the music. And so, Part 3 closes with this realization. Change is not an enemy to defeat, but a partner to embrace. The dance of change is the dance of life itself. To resist it is to stumble. To flow with it is to find freedom. Yet, as profound as this truth is, no one can walk it entirely alone. The path of acceptance and freedom is easier, richer, and more healing when shared. The next stage of our journey explores this essential truth, that we need mirrors, companions, and true friends to remind us of who we are. For while the inner journey is deeply personal, the presence of a spiritual friend can be the bridge that carries us through the storm. We often imagine that the spiritual journey is something we must walk alone. We picture a solitary seeker sitting in silence under a tree, removed from the noise of the world. And there is truth in that image, for deep reflection and meditation are often quiet, inward practices. Yet the Buddha also taught something essential. No one can walk this path entirely by themselves. We are human beings, and human beings are not meant to live in isolation. Our healing, our growth, our awakening often unfold through the presence of another. This presence is not about ordinary company or casual companionship. It is something deeper, something sacred. It is the gift of spiritual friendship. A true friend on the path is not someone who distracts us from our pain or entertains us when we are lonely. A true friend is someone who reflects our deepest self back to us, like a mirror that shows us clearly who we are. Even when we have forgotten. Think of times in your life when you felt lost. Perhaps stress had clouded your judgment. Perhaps grief had broken your heart. Perhaps anger had closed your vision. In those moments, a wise and loving friend can offer more than advice. They offer presence. They sit with us without rushing to fix us. They listen without judgment. They remind us, through their patience and care, that we are not alone. This kind of friendship is a medicine more powerful than words. The Buddha spoke of such friendships as the whole of the spiritual life. That is how vital they are. Because when we walk with noble friends, our hearts are steadied. Their example inspires us. Their honesty challenges us. Their compassion comforts us. Alone, we may fall into illusion, thinking we are weaker or stronger than we really are. With a true friend, we are gently reminded of the truth. Imagine two travelers crossing a desert. The sun is hot, the sand is endless, and the journey is exhausting. Alone, each might give up, but together, they share water, they share stories, they remind each other why they continue. The companionship itself becomes the strength that carries them forward. In the same way, friendship on the spiritual path is not an extra luxury. It is a source of survival. This kind of friendship is not built on flattery or comfort. It is built on honesty and compassion. A noble friend does not tell us only what we want to hear. They tell us what we need to hear, but they say it with kindness. They do not condemn our mistakes, nor do they excuse them. They hold up a mirror, allowing us to see clearly without distortion. Sometimes this mirror is painful. Sometimes it reveals patterns we would rather ignore. But when given with love, it becomes a gift of freedom. There is a story of a young monk who struggled with anger. He tried to hide it, ashamed that he could not control his temper. One day, an older monk sat with him and said, "I see the fire in your eyes. I know this fire well, for I too have burned with it." The young monk felt exposed, but he also felt relief. He was no longer alone in his struggle. The older monk did not shame him. He simply acknowledged the truth, offered compassion, and shared his own journey of transformation. That honesty was the turning point for the younger monk. From then on, he did not fear his anger. He began to work with it, supported by the presence of his friend. In modern life, friendship often means entertainment, distraction, or convenience. We gather to escape boredom, to share surface-level conversations, to fill silence. But spiritual friendship is different. It does not avoid silence. It honors it. It does not escape suffering. It shares it. It is less about what we do together and more about how we are together. Such friendships reshape the nervous system. When someone sits with us in patience and compassion, our body relaxes. The cycles of shame and isolation break. We feel seen, not as perfect or successful, but as fully human. And in that safety, healing begins. But spiritual friendship is not only about receiving support, it is also about offering it. When we become a mirror for another, when we sit with them in their pain without trying to fix them, we embody compassion. We learn that love does not always need words, that presence itself is healing. To be a friend in this way is to serve as a reminder of their worth, their strength, their dignity. In giving this gift, we strengthen it in ourselves. Friendship on the path is mutual. Each person becomes a teacher. Each person becomes a student. Sometimes we are the one who listens. Sometimes we are the one who speaks. Sometimes we are the one who encourages. Sometimes we are the one who receives encouragement. This flow creates a sacred bond that cannot be measured by time or distance. Even when friends part ways, the imprint remains in the heart. The importance of such friendships cannot be overstated. Without them, the journey often becomes heavy, lonely, and confusing. With them, even the hardest trials become bearable, even joyful. It is said that joy shared is doubled, and sorrow shared is halved. This is the power of connection. Still, one must choose wisely. Not every relationship is a mirror that heals. Some relationships drain us, confuse us, or pull us further into suffering. The Buddha advised choosing companions who embody integrity, wisdom, and compassion. Walk with those who remind you of your highest values, not those who lead you away from them. For the company we keep shapes the direction of our lives. When we find such a friend, we must cherish them, not with clinging, but with gratitude. We must nurture the friendship with honesty, presence, and care. For such connections are rare, and they are treasures on the path. And so, we see that while the journey inward is personal, it is not solitary. The mirror of friendship reflects back to us what we cannot see alone. It helps us grow. It helps us heal. It helps us remember who we truly are. But even with the support of friends, there is another challenge waiting. Our attachments to the past, our clinging to what should have been, our stubborn refusal to release old identities, these keep us bound. To move forward, we must learn another art, the gentle art of letting go. The gift of friendship on the path is not something that can be forced. It cannot be demanded, purchased, or fabricated. It grows naturally where honesty, trust, and compassion are present. Like a plant, it needs the right conditions, patience, nourishment, openness to flourish. And like a plant, it is delicate. If neglected, it withers. If suffocated with control, it cannot breathe. True friendship thrives in freedom, not possession. One of the hallmarks of such friendship is presence. In a world filled with constant distraction, the rarest gift we can give someone is our undivided attention. To sit with a friend without reaching for the phone, without rushing to give advice, without judging their words, this is sacred. It tells them, you matter, your pain matters, your joy matters, your story matters. Often, people do not need solutions. They need to be seen. And in being seen, they begin to heal. Another hallmark is truthfulness. A noble friend will not flatter us with lies. They will not pretend we are right when we are wrong, nor will they encourage our harmful habits. Instead, they will speak with gentle honesty. Their words may sting at first, but they carry the medicine of clarity. To hear the truth from a place of love is to be invited into growth. The ego may resist, but the heart knows it has been blessed. Think of the story of a woman who struggled with bitterness. After a painful divorce, she met often with a close friend, pouring out her anger. For months, the friend listened with compassion, never interrupting. But one day, the friend gently said, I hear your pain. I honor it. But I also see that you are carrying it like a stone that crushes you. You deserve to be free. Are you ready to set it down? At first, the woman resisted, even felt hurt. But over time, she realized her friend had spoken with love. That moment became the seed of her healing. This is the power of a mirror that shows us not only our wounds, but also our potential for freedom. Spiritual friendship is not measured by years. Some bonds form quickly in a single deep conversation and last a lifetime. Others come for a season, offering exactly what we need in that chapter of our journey, then fade away. Both are valuable. Both leave their mark. What matters is not the length but the depth, not the quantity but the quality. In Buddhist tradition, such friendships are called Kalyanamitta, noble friends. They are companions who walk beside us toward awakening. They remind us of our highest values when we forget. They call us back to mindfulness when we wander. They encourage us to practice compassion when we are tempted by anger. And in turn, we offer the same to them. This mutual support strengthens both, weaving a bond that uplifts not just individuals, but entire communities. Modern science now confirms what the Buddha taught centuries ago: connection heals. Studies show that loneliness weakens the immune system, fuels depression, and shortens life expectancy. On the other hand, meaningful connection strengthens resilience, reduces stress, and increases joy. When we sit with a compassionate friend, our nervous system calms, our breathing slows, our heart feels safe. This is not just psychology, it is biology, rooted in the deep truth that human beings are made for connection, but not all connections are equal. Some drain us, others uplift us. Some cloud our vision, others sharpen it. That is why discernment is vital. To walk with noble friends is to walk in light. To walk with unwise companions is to risk wandering into darkness. This does not mean we should judge or reject others harshly. It means we choose carefully who we allow to shape our hearts, who we invite into our innermost circle. Sometimes we discover that we must step away from friendships that no longer serve our growth. This is painful, but it is also an act of compassion for ourselves and for them. When a relationship becomes toxic, filled with manipulation, judgment, or harm, clinging to it only deepens suffering. Letting go is not betrayal. It is wisdom. In releasing what hurts us, we make space for what heals us. To honor true friendship is to practice gratitude. Too often, we take for granted the people who stand by us in silence, who walk with us through storms, who hold our hands when words fail. We assume they will always be there. But remember, impermanence touches all things, even friendship. The friend who sits with us today may be gone tomorrow. To cherish them now is to live awake, to honor the sacred gift while it is present. A true friend is not perfect, nor are we. They will make mistakes, they will struggle, they will hurt too. But the bond is not built on perfection. It is built on commitment, forgiveness, and love. When we stumble, they help us rise. When they stumble, we help them rise. In this dance of mutual care, we learn that love is not about never falling. It is about always returning, always lifting, always continuing together. Friendship on the path reminds us of our shared humanity. It dissolves the illusion that we are alone in our struggles. When a friend says, "I too have felt this pain," our isolation softens. When we say, "I too have walked through that darkness," we offer them light. This exchange creates a circle of compassion that expands far beyond two people. Its ripples touch families, communities, even generations. And so, as part 4 comes to a close, we see that friendship is more than comfort. It is sacred. It is the mirror that reveals who we are. It is the presence that steadies us. It is the voice that calls us back to truth when we forget. Without such friends, the journey is heavy. With them, the journey becomes possible, even joyful. But even with the strongest friendships, another truth remains. We still cling to stories, to identities, to expectations that no longer serve us. These clinging habits keep us bound in suffering, even when we are surrounded by love. The next step on our path is to learn the gentle, courageous art of letting go, opening our hands, releasing what weighs us down, and discovering the freedom that comes when we no longer cling. We spend so much of our lives holding on. We hold on to possessions, to memories, to people, to roles, to identities. We hold on to grudges, to expectations, to old wounds that have long since passed. We hold on because letting go feels like loss, as if release means weakness or defeat. And yet, the Buddha taught that clinging is one of the greatest causes of suffering. The tighter we hold, the more pain we feel. True freedom begins not when we gain more, but when we learn to loosen our grip. Imagine holding a rope tied to a horse that is running away. The harder you cling, the more your hands bleed. The rope burns your skin, your body aches, yet you refuse to let go. Only when you release the rope do you discover relief. The horse runs on, but you are no longer dragged. This is what clinging does. It drags us through life, filling our hearts with pain that could be softened by the simple, though difficult, act of letting go. Clinging shows up in many forms. We cling to how we think life should be. We cling to the belief that people should act according to our desires. We cling to our younger selves, unwilling to accept change. We cling to pain because we believe it defines us, or to success because we fear losing it. Every form of clinging is like a chain around the heart. The heavier the chain, the harder it becomes to breathe. Letting go does not mean abandoning love or care. It does not mean indifference. It means releasing the illusion of control. It means loosening the grip of expectation. It means allowing life to flow instead of trying to cage it. When we let go, we do not stop feeling. We begin to feel more freely without fear. We discover that love is stronger when it is not tied to possession, and joy is deeper when it is not tied to conditions. Think of a clenched fist. When the hand is closed, it cannot receive anything new. When it opens, it is free to give and to receive. In the same way, when we cling tightly to the past, to resentments, to rigid beliefs, we close ourselves off from the gifts of the present. Letting go opens the hand of the heart. It creates space for peace, for healing, for renewal. There is a story of two monks traveling together. At a river, they met a woman who could not cross. One monk carried her across on his back. Hours later, the other monk said, "I cannot believe you carried that woman. We are monks. We should not touch women." The first monk replied, "I set her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This story captures the essence of clinging. How often do we continue carrying burdens long after the moment has passed? How often do we replay arguments, regrets, mistakes when they are already gone? Letting go means putting down what no longer needs to be carried, but letting go is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet, gentle, like releasing a sigh. It might be forgiving someone who hurt us, not because they asked, but because we no longer want to poison our hearts with resentment. It might be loosening the pressure of perfectionism, accepting that mistakes are part of being human. It might be stepping away from an identity that no longer fits, the strong one, the provider, the victim, and allowing ourselves to be simply human. The practice of meditation is a training in letting go. We sit and thoughts arise. We notice them, and instead of clinging, we release them. Again and again, we return to the breath. Each release is a small act of freedom. Over time, this practice expands beyond the cushion. We learn to release irritations in traffic, disappointments at work, fears about the future. Letting go becomes less of an idea and more of a way of being. And yet, letting go is not something we do once. It is something we practice daily. The mind clings again and again, and so we release again and again. This is not failure. It is training. Like learning to play an instrument, each note matters. Each attempt strengthens the skill. Slowly, the music of freedom begins to play in our lives. One of the greatest obstacles to letting go is fear. We fear that if we release our grip, everything will fall apart. We fear that without control, we will be vulnerable. But control is an illusion. We never truly had it. Life has always been changing, moving, flowing beyond our command. When we see this truth clearly, letting go becomes less frightening. It becomes a natural response to reality. Think of the autumn tree shedding its leaves. The tree does not mourn the falling leaves. It knows they must go to make space for spring. If the tree clung to its leaves, refusing to let them fall, it would not survive the winter. In the same way, we must learn to let go of what has served its purpose, trusting that new growth will come in time. This practice can transform even the deepest wounds. Consider someone who carries anger for years. Each time they remember the offense, the heart tightens, the body tenses. The anger becomes a prison. But through mindfulness and compassion, they begin to see that clinging to anger harms themselves more than anyone else. Slowly, they soften. Slowly, they release. Forgiveness arises not as an excuse, but as freedom. They discover that letting go is not about the other person. It is about themselves. It is about living UNCHAINED. As part 5 begins to unfold, we see that letting go is not a loss but a gift. It is the gentle art of opening, of releasing what no longer serves us, of trusting the flow of life. But this is only the beginning, for the grip of clinging runs deep, and the path of release asks us to go further, to touch the very roots of fear and desire. Letting go does not mean pushing life away. It means meeting life as it is, without forcing it to match our expectations. It is the courage to say, this moment is enough. Many people confuse letting go with giving up, but the two are not the same. Giving up comes from despair. Letting go comes from freedom. Giving up is heavy, filled with hopelessness. Letting go is light, filled with trust. One drains us, the other liberates us. Think of carrying a backpack filled with stones. Some stones are regrets, some are resentments, some are fears, some are attachments to how life should be. The longer we carry it, the heavier it feels. Letting go is not throwing away the whole pack in anger. It is gently reaching in, stone by stone, and setting down what we no longer need. Over time, the load becomes lighter. We walk more freely. We breathe more easily. One of the hardest stones to release is identity. We cling to the story of who we think we are, the achiever, the failure, the victim, the hero. These identities shape our choices, our relationships, our sense of worth. But the self is not fixed. It is a flowing, changing process. When we cling to an old identity, we block growth. A person who clings to the identity of being strong may refuse to show vulnerability, even when they need help. A person who clings to the identity of being wounded may resist healing, afraid of losing the only story they know. Letting go of identity means allowing ourselves to be more than one story, to evolve, to expand beyond old labels. Another stone we cling to is expectation. We expect people to act a certain way, life to unfold in a certain pattern, the future to match our plans. When reality does not cooperate, frustration grows. But life has never promised to match our expectations. Life has promised only to be life full of surprises, challenges, changes, and gifts. To let go of expectation is to trade the illusion of control for the reality of openness. It is to say, I am willing to meet what comes, even if it is not what I imagined. In the Buddhist path, the practice of non-attachment is central. This does not mean detachment in the sense of coldness. It means holding everything lightly. Like a bird perched on a branch, ready to fly when the time comes, we learn to enjoy without clinging, to love without imprisoning, to engage without grasping. Non-attachment allows us to be fully present, fully alive, because we are no longer consumed by fear of loss. Consider a parent watching their child grow. Each stage, baby, toddler, teenager, adult, brings joy and challenge. If the parent clings to one stage, refusing to let go, they suffer. They may say, I miss when you were small. I cannot accept who you are now. But when they release clinging, they discover new joys in each stage. They love the child not for staying the same, but for becoming who they are meant to be. This is the art of letting go in love, to allow change without fear, to support without control. Letting go also transforms our relationship with fear. Fear thrives on clinging to safety, to certainty, to the known. But when we release the demand for certainty, fear loses its grip. Life becomes less about avoiding risk and more about meeting reality with courage. Letting go does not erase fear, but it shrinks it. It gives us the space to breathe through fear instead of being crushed by it. The Buddha compared clinging to holding a torch against the wind. The tighter we hold, the more likely we are to burn ourselves. But when we set the torch down, the fire no longer harms us. In the same way, letting go is not about extinguishing life's fire. It is about holding it wisely, without grasping. Forgiveness is perhaps the purest form of letting go. When we forgive, we release the chain that ties us to the one who hurt us. We do not excuse their actions. We do not say the harm was acceptable. We simply choose not to carry it any longer. Forgiveness is not about them. It is about us. It is about choosing freedom over bitterness, peace over poison. Many carry grudges for decades, believing it gives them strength. In truth, it drains them. Forgiveness returns that energy to the heart. It restores dignity, not weakness. Letting go is also a practice of trust. Trust that life will bring what is needed, even if it is not what we wanted. Trust that we are strong enough to meet whatever arises. Trust that love and peace are found not in control, but in surrender. This trust is not blind faith. It is grounded in the reality we see every day. Everything changes, everything passes, everything renews. And yet, letting go is not a one-time achievement. It is a rhythm. We cling, we release. We cling again, we release again. Like the breath, it is a cycle. Inhale, exhale, hold, release. Each time we practice, the heart grows lighter, the chains grow weaker, the freedom grows stronger. So as part 5 closes, we remember, letting go is not loss, it is liberation. It is not weakness, it is strength. It is not emptiness, it is spaciousness, the wide open field where peace can grow. Each act of release, no matter how small, is a step toward freedom. But this path of release naturally leads us somewhere deeper. When we let go of resentment, fear, and control, what arises is love. Not the fragile love that depends on conditions, but the boundless love that flows freely. The next step of our journey invites us into that love, the cultivation of an unconditional heart. When we begin to let go of clinging, something extraordinary starts to happen. In the empty space left behind, love begins to grow. Not the kind of love that demands or clutches, not the kind of love that fears loss or needs control, but a different kind of love altogether. A love that is wide, steady, and free. A love that is unconditional. Most of the love we experience in daily life is mixed with conditions. We love people when they are kind to us. We love them when they meet our expectations. We love them when they give us what we want. But when they disappoint us, hurt us, or change in ways we did not expect, our love fades. Conditional love is fragile. It is like a flame that flickers with the smallest wind. It cannot withstand the storms of life. Unconditional love is different. It does not depend on circumstances. It does not demand perfection. It does not say, "I love you if," or "I love you because." It simply says, "I love you." Full stop. It is steady like the sun, shining without asking whether someone deserves the light. It is vast like the sky, holding every cloud without rejecting any. The Buddha called this kind of love metta-loving kindness. It is not sentimental. It is not romantic. It is a quality of the heart that wishes for the well-being of all beings, without exception. This love begins with ourselves. If we cannot offer it inward, we cannot truly offer it outward. Many people struggle with self-love. They believe they are unworthy, that they must earn love through achievement or perfection. But the practice of loving kindness teaches the opposite. Worthiness is not earned, it is inherent. We do not love ourselves because we are flawless. We love ourselves because we are human, because we too long for peace, because we too suffer and strive. One way to cultivate this love is through the simple phrases of metta meditation. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be peaceful. May I live with ease. At first, the words may feel awkward or hollow, but with repetition, they soften the heart. They plant seeds of kindness where once there was harshness. They remind us that we too deserve compassion. From there, the circle expands. We extend the same wishes to others. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be peaceful. May you live with ease. We begin with those we love easily. Then we extend it to acquaintances. Then to strangers. Then even to those we struggle with, those who have hurt us. This expansion is not about excusing harm. It is about freeing ourselves from hatred. Hatred is another form of clinging, another chain around the heart. Loving kindness breaks that chain. Think of a candle lighting another candle. The flame does not diminish. It multiplies. In the same way, unconditional love does not run out when shared. The more we give, the more it grows. Fear tells us love is scarce, that we must protect it, ration it, guard it. But the truth is, love is boundless. Its nature is to expand, to overflow, to connect. Of course, unconditional love is not easy. The world is filled with conflict, injustice, and cruelty. How can we love even in the face of harm? The answer lies in seeing deeply. When we look closely at those who harm, we see their suffering. We see that anger, greed, and ignorance are wounds, not strength. This does not mean we allow harm to continue. It means we act firmly, but without hatred. Love does not make us passive. It makes us wise. It guides us to respond with clarity instead of revenge, with justice instead of cruelty. There is a story of the Buddha being insulted by a man. The man shouted harsh words, trying to provoke him. The Buddha simply asked, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, who does it belong to?" The man replied, "It remains with the one who offered it." The Buddha said, "Then I do not accept your anger, and it remains with you." This is the strength of unconditional love. It does not absorb hatred. It meets it with steady compassion, refusing to be poisoned. Unconditional love is also practical. It transforms relationships. When we love conditionally, every mistake becomes a threat. Every flaw becomes a reason to withdraw. But when we love unconditionally, relationships become places of safety. Partners, friends, family members know they can be imperfect and still be loved. This creates trust. And trust creates healing. It also transforms how we see ourselves. When we practice unconditional love inwardly, failure no longer feels like doom. It becomes a teacher. We no longer beat ourselves with shame. We encourage ourselves with kindness, just as we would a dear friend. This shift changes everything. The inner critic loses power. The heart finds rest. Cultivating an unconditional heart does not mean we allow abuse or stay in harmful situations. True love includes wisdom. Wisdom sees when boundaries are needed. Wisdom knows that sometimes the most loving act is to walk away. Unconditional love does not mean tolerating harm. It means holding compassion in the heart, even while taking strong action to protect ourselves or others. And so, unconditional love is not soft in a weak sense. It is strong, resilient, unshakable. It is like the ocean, steady even when waves crash. It is like the earth, holding both flowers and thorns. It is like the sky, vast enough to contain both storms and sunlight. This love gives us the courage to face life's challenges without being hardened by them. But to grow such a heart, we must practice. Just as muscles strengthen through exercise, love strengthens through intentional acts. Each time we choose patience over anger, generosity over greed, compassion over judgment, we train the heart. Each act may feel small, but together they form a new way of being. Slowly, we transform not only our own lives, but the lives of those around us. And so, Part 6 begins with this reminder: when we let go of clinging, what remains is love. Not the fragile love of conditions, but the steady love of compassion. This love is the soil in which peace grows, the bridge that connects us to others, the light that dissolves the darkness of fear. But to embody this love fully, we must also understand its partner, compassion in action. For love that does not move into action remains incomplete. And that is where our journey continues. Unconditional love grows through practice, but practice is not always easy. The heart has old wounds, old fears, old patterns that resist expansion. Sometimes we feel open one moment and closed the next. Sometimes we offer kindness to others, but forget to include ourselves. Sometimes we love freely, but then slip back into judgment or resentment. This is natural. The path to an unconditional heart is not a straight line. It is a spiral. We return again and again to the practice, each time a little deeper, a little wider. One of the most powerful practices is to begin each day with an intention of love. Before rushing into tasks, before checking messages, pause. Place a hand on the heart and say quietly, "Today, may I meet others with kindness. Today, may I see through the eyes of compassion." This simple ritual plants seeds. It reminds us that the purpose of life is not just to achieve or acquire, but to love and to connect. Another practice is to expand empathy beyond those who are close to us. It is easy to love a child's laughter or a friend's smile. But can we extend love to the stranger on the bus? To the coworker who irritates us? To the person who holds different beliefs? Each time we soften instead of hardening, we expand the boundaries of the heart. Each time we see another as fully human, deserving of peace, we take a step toward unconditional love. Consider the practice of seeing everyone as a teacher. A kind friend teaches us gratitude. A difficult person teaches us patience. The stranger teaches us humility. Even those who hurt us can teach us about forgiveness and resilience. When we begin to view life this way, resentment transforms into opportunity, and anger transforms into growth. The heart becomes less reactive, more steady, more open. Still, the deepest challenge is often loving ourselves. Many people find it easier to forgive others than to forgive themselves. They carry old mistakes like scars, replaying them again and again. But the Buddha taught that compassion must begin at home. Without self-compassion, our love for others becomes unbalanced. We burn out, we grow resentful, we feel empty. To care for ourselves is not selfish, it is essential. It allows us to give from fullness instead of depletion. Imagine a friend comes to you, full of sorrow, confessing a mistake. Would you yell at them? Would you tell them they are worthless? Of course not. You would comfort them, encourage them, remind them of their goodness. Why then do we speak so harshly to ourselves? The practice of self-love is to treat ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a beloved friend. To say, "I too am human. I too deserve peace." This kind of love does not inflate the ego. It does not make us arrogant. It humbles us because we realize that our struggles are the same as everyone's struggles. We are not separate. We are not alone. When we embrace our own humanity, we naturally embrace the humanity of others. Unconditional love also extends beyond people. It includes animals, plants, the earth itself. When the heart expands, compassion reaches all beings. We begin to walk gently, eat mindfully, consume with care. We see the interconnectedness of life, and our choices reflect respect for that connection. Love becomes not just a feeling, but a way of living. There is a story of a monk who rescued an injured bird. When asked why he cared so deeply for the small creature, he replied, "When I care for the bird, I care for myself. When I heal its wing, I heal my own heart." This is the essence of an unconditional heart. It knows that there is no separation, that every act of kindness ripples across the web of life. But unconditional love does not mean we will never feel anger, frustration, or grief. These emotions are part of being human. The difference is how we hold them. Instead of pushing them away or letting them control us, we surround them with compassion. We say, "Yes, anger is here. Yes, grief is here. May I hold them gently." Love does not eliminate pain. It changes the way we meet it. To cultivate such a heart is to live in alignment with the deepest truth of the Dharma, that all beings long for happiness, that all beings suffer, that all beings are worthy of compassion. This truth softens the sharp edges of judgment. It reminds us that beneath appearances, we are all the same. And so, as Part 6 draws to its close, we recognize that unconditional love is not an ideal beyond reach. It is a daily practice, a choice we make again and again. It grows with intention, with patience, with courage. It is not about perfection. It is about persistence. Each moment of kindness, each act of compassion, each breath of forgiveness expands the heart a little more. When we cultivate an unconditional heart, we no longer live in fear of loss. We no longer need to control. We no longer separate ourselves from others. We live connected, open, alive. This is the greatest freedom, the freedom to love without condition. But love, to be complete, must also move into action. It must express itself not only in feelings, but in deeds. The next part of our journey explores this truth, the path of compassion in action, where love becomes service, and service becomes a doorway to liberation. Love that stays inside the heart is beautiful, but incomplete. Like a seed left in a drawer, it holds potential, but does not bloom. For love to truly transform us and the world around us, it must move outward. It must become action. This is compassion in action, the living expression of unconditional love. Compassion is not simply feeling sorry for others. Pity looks down. Compassion stands beside. Pity says, "You are weak." Compassion says, "I too have suffered, and I stand with you." Compassion arises when we recognize our shared humanity, when we see that the suffering of others is not separate from our own. The Buddha taught that compassion is the natural response of a heart that sees clearly. When we let go of clinging and cultivate unconditional love, compassion flows naturally. It is not forced. It does not ask, "Do they deserve it?" It simply responds to suffering with care. Just as a mother runs to comfort her crying child without hesitation, compassion rushes to meet pain wherever it appears. But compassion is not only about emotion, it is about action. To see suffering and do nothing is to leave the seed unplanted. Compassion asks us to respond, each in our own way, according to our capacity. Sometimes that means offering a kind word. Sometimes it means listening deeply. Sometimes it means giving time, resources, or protection. Sometimes it means standing up against injustice. Compassion takes many forms, but its root is the same, a wish to relieve suffering. Imagine walking down a street and seeing someone trip and fall. You could feel sorry for them, or you could reach out a hand and help them rise. The second is compassion in action. It is simple, direct, human. And though small, such moments ripple outward, creating a culture of care. In daily life, opportunities for compassion are everywhere. Holding the door for someone whose arms are full, smiling at a stranger who looks weary, offering patience to a colleague under stress, listening without interrupting when a friend shares their pain. These acts may seem ordinary, but they are sacred. They turn love into movement, into reality, into transformation. Asterisk, sometimes compassion requires courage. It asks us to face suffering we might prefer to ignore. It asks us to leave comfort and step into discomfort, to volunteer where people are hungry, to sit with someone who is grieving, even when words fail, to advocate for those whose voices are silenced. Compassion in action is not always easy, but it is always meaningful. There is a story of a monk who found a starving dog on the roadside, covered in sores. He did not turn away. Instead, he sat beside the dog, gently cleaned its wounds, and fed it. When asked why he gave so much care to an animal, he replied, "When I care for this being, I care for myself." There is no separation. This story reminds us that compassion does not measure worth. It does not limit itself to humans. It extends to all beings. True compassion also includes wisdom. It does not mean rescuing in ways that create dependence. It does not mean saying yes when boundaries are needed. Compassion asks, what will truly reduce suffering in this moment? Sometimes that means giving. Sometimes it means guiding. Sometimes it means stepping back. Without wisdom, compassion can become exhaustion or enablement. With wisdom, compassion becomes healing. In the West, compassion is sometimes seen as weakness. But in truth, it is strength. It takes courage to open the heart when the world tells us to harden it. It takes resilience to care when indifference feels safer. Compassion is not fragile, it is fierce. It fuels movements for justice. It heals broken communities. It transforms enemies into friends. Compassion has the power to change the world because it changes the way we meet the world. Think of water carving through stone. It seems soft, yet over time it shapes mountains. Compassion is the same. It may appear gentle, but its persistence reshapes lives, families, societies. One act at a time, one person at a time, compassion erodes the hardness of suffering and reveals the possibility of peace. But compassion begins small. We cannot expect to heal the world if we cannot extend kindness in our own homes. The practice starts where we are, with the people we see each day, with ourselves, with the ordinary moments that make up daily life. If we wait for the perfect moment to be compassionate, we will wait forever. The perfect moment is now. Even silence can be compassion in action. Sitting with someone who's grieving without trying to fix their pain is a gift. Listening with full presence without judgment or distraction is a gift. Allowing someone to be exactly where they are without rushing them is a gift. Compassion is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is as simple as being there. As we move deeper into this path, we discover that compassion in action is not only about others, it transforms us too. Each time we act with kindness, the heart grows lighter. Each time we relieve suffering, even in small ways, our own suffering softens. Compassion frees both the giver and the receiver. It reminds us that love is not a possession, but a flow. And so, Part 7 begins with this truth. Unconditional love must move into action to be complete. Compassion in action is how love becomes real, how peace becomes visible, how suffering begins to heal. But to embody compassion fully, we must also face the places where it is hardest to practice, in conflict, in injustice, in the presence of those we call enemy. That is where the heart is tested, and that is where the heart grows strong. Compassion in action shines most brightly where it is most difficult. It is easy to be kind to those who are kind to us. It is harder to extend compassion to those who oppose us, hurt us, or stand against our values. Yet this is the true test of the heart. The Buddha taught that hatred never ends by hatred. Hatred ends only by love. To respond to cruelty with cruelty only multiplies suffering. To respond with compassion breaks the cycle. Consider two enemies locked in conflict. Each believes the other is the cause of their suffering. Each holds on to anger like a weapon. The battle continues generation after generation. But if one side chooses compassion, the cycle begins to change. Not instantly, not easily, but slowly, like a seed pushing through hard soil, compassion creates cracks in the wall of hatred. It opens the possibility of peace. This does not mean we allow harm to continue. Compassion is not passive. It does not look away from injustice. It does not ignore suffering. True compassion acts to protect, to heal, to restore balance. But it acts without hatred. It says firmly, "This harm must stop," while also saying, "And still, I see your humanity." This balance of firmness and care is what makes compassion powerful. There is a story of the Dalai Lama, who lost his country to violence and oppression. He suffered exile, saw his people scattered, his culture threatened. Yet when asked about those who harmed him, he said, "They too are human beings. They too want happiness. I cannot hate them." His compassion did not erase the harm. It gave him the strength to face it without losing his humanity. Compassion in action also transforms small conflicts in daily life. A harsh word from a partner, an unfair comment from a colleague, a rude driver on the road. These moments invite us to react with anger. But if we pause, if we breathe, if we remember compassion, we respond differently. We may still set boundaries. We may still speak truth. But we do so with calm instead of fire, with clarity instead of revenge. This shift not only changes the outcome, it changes us. Think of anger as a torch. When we pass it on, the fire spreads. When we drop it, the fire ends. Compassion is the act of dropping the torch. It extinguishes flames before they burn further. In a world filled with conflict, each act of compassion is like water poured on fire. Alone, it may seem small. Together, it can change the course of history. Yet compassion must also be extended inward. Many who dedicate themselves to helping others forget to care for themselves. They give until they are empty, believing sacrifice is noble. But burned out compassion is not compassion at all. To act with love, we must also rest with love. To serve others, we must also serve ourselves. This balance allows compassion to flow sustainably, without resentment or exhaustion. Practical ways to nurture this balance include setting aside time for silence, for reflection, for nourishing activities. It means saying no when the heart is overwhelmed, trusting that boundaries are part of love. It means remembering that we too are included in the circle of compassion. The stronger our own well-being, the more deeply we can serve others. Compassion in action is not measured by size. It is not only found in grand gestures or public acts. It is found in the daily rhythm of kindness. The parent who wakes in the night to comfort a crying child. The nurse who holds a patient's hand. The neighbor who checks on an elder. These quiet acts may never be seen by the world, but they shape the world more than we realize. They weave a culture of care, thread by thread, moment by moment. Even in times of despair, compassion offers hope. When disasters strike, when communities face loss, when darkness seems overwhelming, the response of people helping people is what restores faith. Strangers carrying strangers, volunteers offering food, hands reaching out through rubble. These acts show that even in suffering, love moves. Compassion is the light that cannot be extinguished, no matter how deep the night. The Buddha described compassion as the trembling of the heart when touched by suffering. This trembling is not weakness, it is aliveness. It is the reminder that we are not separate, that another's pain is also our pain, that another's joy is also our joy. To live with such a heart is to live awake. And so, Part 7 closes with this truth. Compassion in action is the bridge between love and liberation. It transforms inner peace into outer service. It softens conflict, heals wounds, and restores dignity. It is not reserved for saints or sages. It is available to each of us, here and now, in the choices we make daily. But as we walk this path, another teaching arises. Compassion calls us to engage with life, but life itself is fleeting. Even as we serve, even as we love, we are reminded that nothing lasts forever. This leads us to the next lesson, expressed in one of the simplest yet most profound images. A monk and his fragile porcelain teacup. There was once a monk who owned a simple porcelain teacup. It was nothing extraordinary, just a small white cup with a faint crack along its rim. Yet every morning, as he drank his tea, he would smile at the cup and say softly, "Already broken." The other monks asked him, "Why do you speak this way?" "The cup is still here. It holds your tea. Why call it broken?" The monk replied, "Because one day it will fall. One day it will shatter. When that moment comes, I will not suffer, for I have already accepted it. And so while it lasts, I can enjoy it fully. I can admire its shape, its simplicity, the warmth of tea within it. Because in my heart, I have already let it go." This simple story carries a profound truth. Everything we love is already fragile. Every relationship, every possession, every moment of health, every breath. If we cling to them as if they will last forever, we set ourselves up for heartbreak. But if we live with the awareness that they are already broken, we stop taking them for granted. We stop clinging. We begin to cherish them deeply while they last, and we release them gently when they go. Modern life often hides this truth. We polish our possessions, insure them, protect them, as if they will never fade. We plan our lives as if certainty is possible. We avoid thoughts of death, of endings, of fragility, hoping to escape them. But denial does not protect us. It only makes loss more painful when it comes. Acceptance, though uncomfortable, brings freedom. It prepares the heart. Think of the way we hold our phones, our cars, our homes. We say, "This is mine. It must stay safe. If it breaks, I will be devastated." But objects break. Homes crumble. Even bodies fail. To live in fear of that truth is to live in chains. But to live with awareness is to live free. The monk's teacup teaches us this: to hold everything lightly, to enjoy without clinging, to love without illusion. The teaching of already broken is not meant to make us cold or detached. It is not about rejecting love or refusing joy. It is about savoring life more deeply. When we accept impermanence, every sip of tea becomes precious. Every moment with a loved one becomes sacred. Every breath becomes a miracle. Nothing is taken for granted because we know it will not last forever. Imagine holding a delicate glass in your hand. If you pretend it will never break, you may toss it carelessly, leave it in risky places. But if you remember its fragility, you hold it gently. You appreciate its beauty while it lasts. This is how we are called to hold life with gentleness, with awareness, with gratitude. This teaching also helps us face loss. When a loved one dies, when a relationship ends, when health declines, the heart aches. But if we have already whispered "already broken" to ourselves, the grief, though heavy, does not crush us. We remember, this is the way of all things. Endings are not a mistake. They are part of the design. The cup breaks, and yet the tea it once held warmed us. The love we shared remains in memory, in impact, in the subtle ways it shaped our lives. In many Buddhist traditions, monks reflect daily on death, not as a morbid obsession, but as a practice of freedom. By remembering that life is fragile, they live more fully. They waste less time on trivial quarrels, less energy on chasing what does not matter. They invest themselves in compassion, in presence, In the only moment that is truly theirs, the now. The truth of the broken cup applies to relationships as well. When we accept that people change, that people leave, that life moves forward, we stop clinging to illusions. We begin to love people as they are, not as we want them to be. We become less afraid of saying goodbye because we have said thank you along the way. Love deepens when we accept it as temporary. It becomes a gift, not a possession. There is a tenderness in this way of living. To look at a friend and think, one day this face will be gone, but today I see you. Today I hear you. Today I love you. To hold a child and think, one day these small hands will no longer reach for me, but today I feel their warmth. This awareness is not sorrowful, it is luminous. It wakes us up. It makes us more alive. The monk's teacup is also a mirror for our own lives. We too are already broken. One day, our body will no longer move. Our breath will no longer rise and fall. When we deny this, fear dominates. But when we accept it, life becomes urgent, vivid, real. We realize that the measure of life is not how long it lasts, but how deeply we live it. To walk with the wisdom of already broken is to let go of the illusion of permanence. It is to see that beauty lies not in forever, but in fragility. The blossom is beautiful because it fades. The song is precious because it ends. The cup is meaningful because one day it will shatter. And so, part 8 begins with this lesson. Hold life gently, love fully, release freely. The monk and his teacup remind us that impermanence is not tragedy, it is truth. And when we embrace this truth, fear softens, gratitude grows, and joy becomes possible in every fragile, fleeting moment. The wisdom of the broken teacup is not only for monks, it belongs to each of us. In fact, we practice it unconsciously in small ways already. Think of a ripe peach on a summer day. You know it will not last. You know it will soon rot if left untouched. And so you eat it with joy, savoring its sweetness, grateful for its brief gift. The same is true for a sunset, a rainbow, a song on the radio. You enjoy them because you know they are fleeting. The monk's teacup simply invites us to apply that same awareness to all of life, but there is resistance. The mind does not like impermanence. It craves security, permanence, guarantees. We sign contracts, take photos, make promises, all in the hope of freezing moments. We want the child to stay small, the body to stay young, the job to stay stable, the love to stay fresh. When change arrives, as it always does, we feel betrayed. But who betrayed us? Not life. Life never promised permanence. It only promised flow. Our suffering comes not from change itself, but from expecting what was never possible. When we learn to live with already broken, we shift from ownership to stewardship. Instead of saying, "This is mine, it must last forever," we say, "This is here now, I will care for it while it lasts." A gardener knows that flowers bloom and wither. The task is not to keep them from fading, but to water them while they grow. In the same way, we can hold our relationships, our possessions, our very lives with care, not control. There is a quiet joy in this. To sip tea from a cup you know will break is to taste more deeply. To hold a hand you know will one day be gone is to cherish it fully. To walk in a body you know will age is to move with gratitude. Impermanence sharpens the flavor of life. It turns ordinary moments into treasures. This practice also helps us loosen our grip on possessions. How much suffering arises from things? We fear losing them, breaking them, not having enough of them. But all things are temporary. Cars rust, clothes wear. Phones crack. Houses crumble. If we see them as already broken, our relationship changes. We still use them, still care for them, but we do not cling. When they are lost, we grieve less. We remember they were never ours to keep, only to borrow for a time. The same applies to achievements. A trophy gathers dust. A title fades. A record is broken. If we cling to them, we feel empty when they vanish. But if we see them as temporary, we enjoy them while they last and release them with peace. The joy was never in the permanence, it was in the journey. The monk's teacup also teaches us about loss. When someone dear to us dies, the grief can feel unbearable. But if we have lived with already broken, the grief, though still sharp, carries less shock. We have already whispered to ourselves, this too is fragile. We have cherished them while they were here. And so, when they go, we release with gratitude instead of despair. We say, thank you for your presence. I knew you would one day be gone, and I am grateful for every moment we shared. This does not erase pain. It does not deny sorrow. Tears still fall. Hearts still ache. But acceptance changes the texture of grief. Instead of endless resistance, there is softness. Instead of bitterness, there is tenderness. The broken cup teaches us that endings are not failures. They are part of life's design. Not to live with this awareness is to live awake. It is to stop sleepwalking through days, assuming they will repeat forever. It is to look at life honestly, and in that honesty, find deeper joy. The laugh of a child, the smell of rain, the taste of teach becomes holy. Not because they last forever, but because they do not dot. So the monk with his teacup teaches us the art of presence, gratitude, and release. The cup will break. The body will age. The loved one will depart. And knowing this, we live more fully now. We stop postponing love. We stop waiting for later. We stop clinging to illusions. We drink the tea. We cherish the cup. We whisper thank you. And so, Part 8 closes with a simple truth. Everything is already broken, and that is what makes it precious. When we live with this wisdom, fear loses its hold. Gratitude fills the heart. Joy arises in the fragile, fleeting miracle of the present. But another question arises. If everything is fragile, if everything breaks, what gives life meaning? The answer lies in how we live, in the choices we make, in the seeds we plant. This leads us to the next teaching, the truth of karma, the law of cause and effect, and how every action shapes not only our lives, but the lives of countless others. Every action creates a ripple. Like a stone dropped in a still pond, the effects move outward, touching shores we cannot even see. This is the law of karma, the truth that every choice, every word, every thought carries consequences. Karma is not about punishment or reward from an outside power. It is about cause and effect, as natural as gravity. Plant an apple seed, and an apple tree grows. Plant a thorn, and you cannot expect roses. In the same way, plant kindness, and kindness will return. Plant harm, and harm will return. Yet many misunderstand karma. Some believe it is fate, a fixed destiny that cannot be changed. But the Buddha taught the opposite. Karma is alive, flexible, responsive. It is shaped moment by moment by the choices we make. If past actions have created suffering, we are not doomed. We can plant new seeds, choose new directions, change the course of our lives. Karma is not a prison. It is a teacher. It reminds us that the future is built by what we do today. Think of a farmer. If last year's harvest was poor, the farmer does not give up. They prepare the soil, plant carefully, tend the field with diligence. Over time, the harvest improves. Karma is like this. It does not demand perfection, only persistence. Each kind word, each act of generosity, each moment of mindfulness enriches the soil of our life. Slowly, suffering lessens. Slowly, joy increases. Consider the story of a man filled with anger. For years, he lashed out at his family, his co-workers, even strangers. His relationships fell apart. His health declined. He felt trapped, blaming the world for his misery. But one day, he paused. He saw that his anger was a seed he himself had planted, and it had grown into a forest of loneliness. With guidance, he began to practice mindfulness, to breathe before speaking, to soften his tone. At first, the change was small, but with time, his family returned. His health improved, his heart lightened. His karma shifted because he planted new seeds. This is the power of understanding karma. It gives us responsibility, but also hope. Responsibility because we must own our actions. Hope because we can always choose again. No matter how many mistakes we have made, no matter how heavy our past, the next moment is fresh. The next choice can be different. Karma also teaches us that our actions extend beyond ourselves. A harsh word may echo in someone's heart for years. A small act of kindness may inspire a chain of goodness that spreads far beyond our sight. We rarely see the full impact of our actions, but the ripples are real. This truth calls us to live with care, to choose wisely, to act with awareness. Imagine a drop of dye falling into clear water. It spreads quickly, changing the whole glass. In the same way, each action colors the world around us. If we fill the world with anger, it darkens. If we fill it with compassion, it brightens. Every choice matters because every choice contributes to the fabric of life. The Buddha once said that if we want to know our past, we should look at our present conditions. And if we want to know our future, we should look at our present actions. Our life is not an accident. It is the unfolding of seeds planted over time. This does not mean we are to blame for everything that happens. Many factors shape each moment: our actions, the actions of others, the natural world. But our choices always matter. They are the one factor we can influence directly. Karma also invites us to reflect on intention. It is not only what we do, but why we do it, that shapes our lives. A gift given out of love creates joy. A gift given out of manipulation creates confusion. Words spoken with compassion heal. Words spoken with hatred harm. The same action can bear different fruit depending on the intention behind it. This is why mindfulness is so vital. When we act with awareness, we plant seeds of clarity and kindness. When we act blindly, we plant seeds of suffering. In modern life, the pace is so fast that we often act without thinking. We send messages without care. We make decisions without reflection. We react instead of responding. The law of karma reminds us to pause, to ask, what seed am I planting in this moment? Will it lead to peace or to pain? This simple pause can change everything. Karma is not only about the big choices. It is built in small daily habits. The way we treat a cashier, the way we speak to a child, the way we care for our own body, these moments accumulate. Over time, they form the character of our life. Just as a mountain is built grain by grain, so too is karma, built action by action. There is also collective karma, the truth that communities, nations, even humanity as a whole, create ripples together. When societies plant seeds of greed, violence, or exploitation, they reap conflict and suffering. When they plant seeds of justice, compassion, and cooperation, they reap peace. Each of us contributes to this collective field. Our personal choices matter not only for ourselves, but for the world we share. To understand karma deeply is to realize that we are never powerless. Every breath offers a choice. Every moment is a seed. The question is not whether we will create karma, but what kind. Will we sow bitterness, or will we sow love? Will we repeat old patterns, or will we plant something new? And so, Part 9 begins with this reminder. Our lives are gardens. The harvest reflects the seeds we plant and the care we give. Karma is not a chain to bind us, it is a compass to guide us. The next step is to explore how these ripples touch not only our own hearts, but generations to come, shaping the world in ways we cannot yet see. The ripples of karma do not stop with us. They extend outward, touching the lives of those around us, and they continue beyond our lifetime, shaping the future of generations. Each choice we make, no matter how small, plants a seed in the field of humanity. Some seeds grow quickly. Others lie dormant for years before sprouting. But every seed matters. Think of a teacher who speaks kindly to a struggling child. That single word of encouragement may inspire confidence that shapes the child's whole life. The child grows, carries that confidence into relationships, into work, into service. They pass it on to others, who pass it on again. That one seed of kindness planted decades ago may still be bearing fruit long after the teacher is gone. This is the unseen power of karma, the ripples we may never witness, but which continue nonetheless. The same is true of harmful seeds. A careless insult may echo in someone's mind for years. A decision made in greed may harm families for generations. History is full of examples where the karma of individuals shaped nations, where the karma of nations shaped the world. Wars, injustices, and oppression are collective harvests of harmful seeds. Yet peace movements, breakthroughs in compassion, and acts of justice are collective harvests of wholesome seeds. When we understand this, responsibility deepens. We see that our choices are not isolated. They are threads woven into a vast fabric. A single act may seem small, but together they form patterns that define societies. To choose kindness is not just personal, it is revolutionary. It contributes to a world where compassion is stronger than cruelty, where justice is stronger than oppression. This truth is both humbling and empowering. Humbling, because we realize our actions matter more than we imagined. Empowering, because we see that we always have the ability to contribute to healing. Even when the world feels overwhelming, even when problems seem too vast, we can plant seeds where we stand. A smile, a generous act, a patient response, they ripple outward. We may never see the full impact, but the impact is real. The Buddha once told his followers that karma is like a shadow. Wherever we go, it follows. But unlike a shadow, karma can be transformed. We are not bound by yesterday's actions. Each new moment offers freedom to choose again. If we have planted harmful seeds, we can stop watering them. If we have neglected wholesome seeds, we can nourish them now. The garden of life is always open to renewal. There is a story of Angulimala, a man who had committed terrible crimes, taking many lives. His karma was heavy, his reputation feared. But when he encountered the Buddha, something shifted. Through compassion and guidance, Angulimala renounced violence, devoted himself to healing, and became a monk. His past did not disappear, but his future changed. His actions turned from harm to service, from destruction to peace. His story reminds us, no one is beyond transformation. Karma does not lock us in. It invites us forward. In our own lives, we may carry regrets. Words we cannot take back, mistakes that haunt us, choices we wish we had made differently. Karma teaches us not to dwell in shame, but to act wisely now. To apologize where possible. To repair where possible. To dedicate ourselves to planting better seeds. Shame paralyzes. Karma motivates. It calls us to responsibility, but also to renewal. Modern science echoes this truth. Studies show that small acts of kindness increase well-being, not only for the receiver, but for the giver. Compassion strengthens resilience. Generosity deepens happiness. Our nervous systems are wired to respond to seeds of care. This is karma in action, visible in the body itself. The law of cause and effect is not abstract, it is living within us. And so, when we reflect on karma, we are invited to ask, what seeds am I planting each day? When I speak, are my words seeds of kindness or seeds of harm? When I act, am I planting peace or planting conflict? When I think, am I cultivating fear or cultivating hope? These questions guide us toward intentional living. They remind us that we are gardeners, shaping the harvest of our lives and of the world. To live with awareness of karma is to live awake. It is to see that nothing we do is wasted. Every smile, every gesture, every thought matters. The universe is listening, responding, unfolding according to the seeds we scatter. This is not a burden, it is a blessing. It means that even in small ways, we hold power to create good, to bring healing, to contribute to the great fabric of compassion. And so, Part 9 closes with this realization. Our lives are ripples. The choices we make echo far beyond what we see. Karma is not fate, it is possibility. It calls us to choose wisely, to plant seeds of love, to trust that even the smallest act may one day bloom into something vast and beautiful. Understanding karma leads naturally to another truth. If all things are connected, if our actions ripple outward, then how we see ourselves and others becomes vital. The final step of our journey is to explore the truth of interbeing, the reality that we are not separate, but woven into one great web of life. To understand the truth of life, we must go beyond the illusion of separation. We often see ourselves as isolated beings, each moving independently, each carrying our own struggles, our own joys. But the Buddha taught a deeper truth. Nothing exists alone. Everything is connected. Everything is. Look at a simple sheet of paper. At first, you see only paper, but look more deeply, and you see the tree from which it came. You see the rain that nourished the tree, the sunshine that fed its leaves. You see the logger who cut it, the worker who processed it, the truck that carried it, the store that sold it. Without clouds, there would be no rain. Without the sun, no tree. Without the tree, no paper. Without people, no hands to shape it. When you hold a sheet of paper, you hold the entire universe. This is interbeing. The same is true for ourselves. When you look into your body, you see your ancestors. You carry your mother's eyes, your father's smile, the blood of countless generations flowing in your veins. You carry the food you have eaten, the water you have drunk, the air you have breathed. You are not separate from the earth, the sky, the rivers. You are the continuation of all that has come before. Modern science affirms this. The oxygen in our lungs was once part of a forest. The iron in our blood was forged in the heart of a star. We are literally made of stardust, recycled through billions of years. To say we are separate is an illusion. To see that we are connected is truth. This truth transforms how we live. When we believe we are separate, we act selfishly. We exploit the earth, thinking it is outside us. We harm others, thinking their suffering is not ours. But when we see interbeing, everything changes. We care for the earth as our own body. We care for others as ourselves. Because in truth, they are ourselves. Their well-being is our well-being. Their suffering is our suffering. Consider a hand with 5 fingers. If one finger cuts another, would the hand say, "That is not my problem"? Of course not. The whole hand feels the pain. In the same way, when one part of humanity suffers, all of humanity suffers. When one part heals, all of humanity heals. Interbeing is not philosophy, it is reality. This truth is visible even in daily life. A smile from a stranger can brighten your day. A harsh word can darken it. Your mood ripples into your family. Your family ripples into your community. Your community ripples into the world. No action, no thought, no word is isolated. We are constantly shaping one another, constantly influencing one another. The Buddha compared this to a net of jewels, stretching infinitely in all directions. At each point of the net is a jewel, and each jewel reflects every other jewel. In the same way, every being reflects every other being. Nothing shines alone. Everything shines together. Not to live with awareness of interbeing is to live with humility and gratitude. We realize we are not self-made. Every meal depends on countless hands. Every breath depends on forests and oceans. Every success depends on teachers, friends, strangers who helped us along the way. Gratitude replaces arrogance. Connection replaces isolation. This awareness also softens judgment. When we see someone acting with anger or cruelty, we do not excuse the behavior, but we understand its roots. Perhaps they carry wounds from childhood. Perhaps they suffer from fear. Their actions are connected to causes and conditions, just as ours are. This understanding does not make us passive, it makes us compassionate. We respond with wisdom instead of hatred. Interbeing also deepens joy. To walk outside and see not just trees but living relatives, not just clouds but part of yourself, not just strangers but companions, this fills the heart with wonder. The world becomes alive, sacred, intimate. Nothing is ordinary because everything is part of us. Yet interbeing also brings responsibility. If we are connected, and our choices matter not only for ourselves but for all. When we waste, the earth suffers. When we harm, humanity suffers. But when we love, when we care, when we plant seeds of compassion, the whole web brightens. Interbeing means we are never powerless. Each act contributes to the whole. And so, Part 10 begins with this realization. We do not stand alone. We are threads in a vast tapestry, each one woven with all others. To pull one thread is to move the whole. To heal one part is to heal the whole. This truth of interbeing is not meant to overwhelm us. It is meant to free us. Because when we see we are not alone, we discover the strength of belonging, the courage of connection, the joy of being part of something far greater than ourselves. To live with interbeing in our hearts is to live differently. We become less obsessed with me and more aware of we. The ego softens. The walls we build between ourselves and others begin to crumble. The idea of a separate self starts to feel like a dream, and in its place arises a sense of belonging, a sense of home in the whole universe. Think of breathing. Each breath you take comes from the trees and the oceans. You exhale, and your breath becomes nourishment for plants. The cycle continues endlessly. You are not separate from the breath of the world. You are part of it. To say, "This is my breath," is only half true. It is also the world's breath. In every inhale and exhale, we enter are. The same truth appears in food. A simple bowl of rice contains the rain, the soil, the farmer's labor, the sun's warmth, the transportation that carried it, the cook who prepared it. When you eat, you are eating the universe. Gratitude grows when we see this. We stop rushing, stop consuming blindly. Each bite becomes a meditation, a recognition of connection. Interbeing also teaches us about conflict. When we see others as separate, enemies are easy to create. We say, "They are different. They are against us." But when we see interbeing, we realize that harming others is harming ourselves. Wars, discrimination, violence, they are wounds we inflict on the one body of humanity. Peace is not about defeating others. It is about healing the whole. This awareness can transform relationships. When we see our partner, our child, our colleague not as separate individuals, but as reflections of ourselves, compassion deepens. Their joy becomes our joy. Their suffering becomes our call to care. The walls of pride and stubbornness soften. We listen more, judge less, love more fully. Interbeing also reshapes how we view the earth. The forest is not scenery. it is our lungs. The river is not a resource, it is our blood. The soil is not dirt, it is our body. To pollute the earth is to poison ourselves. To heal the earth is to heal ourselves. When we understand this, environmental care is no longer a political issue. It is a matter of survival, of love, of sanity. There is a story of a monk walking through the forest with his students. He stopped and touched a tree, saying, "Do you see this tree? Without it, we could not breathe. Without it, we could not live. This tree is our mother, our brother, our self." The students looked again, and suddenly the tree was no longer wood and leaves. It was life itself. This is the shift interbeing invites us to make, from object to relative, from resource to sacred companion. Interbeing also transforms how we see time. The past is not gone, it lives in us. The future is not separate, it is shaped by us. We are the continuation of our ancestors, and we are the ancestors of those to come. Each choice echoes forward. Each act of love becomes a gift to future generations. When we see this, our lives gain depth. We are not living only for ourselves. We are participating in the great stream of life, carrying it forward with care. But interbeing is not only a teaching to think about, it is a practice to live. Each day, we can pause and ask, how am I connected right now? We can look at a glass of water and see the clouds, the rivers, the mountains. We can look at a stranger and see our shared humanity. We can look at ourselves and see not isolation, but relationship. This awareness turns ordinary moments into sacred ones. Of course, we forget. The illusion of separation is strong. The world teaches us to compete, to divide, to protect the self at all costs. We fall into anger, jealousy, fear. But the practice is to remember, again and again, to breathe, to look deeply, to recall the net of jewels. Each time we remember, we strengthen the habit of connection. Slowly, the illusion weakens. Slowly, the truth shines through. And so, Part 10 closes with this vision. We are not separate drops of water. We are the ocean. We are not isolated stars. We are the galaxy. We are not lone beings. We are the web of life itself. To live with this awareness is to live with humility, with gratitude, with compassion. It is to find peace not in isolation, but in connection. The journey we have walked together has moved from pain to release, from suffering to awakening, from illusion to truth. Now, as we prepare to close, we gather the threads of these teachings, the call to face suffering, to let go, to love unconditionally, to act with compassion, to accept impermanence, to live with awareness of karma, to see interbeing. From these threads, a final tapestry emerges. A life of freedom, a life of peace, a life of meaning. We have walked a long path together. We began with pain, the stress, anxiety, and loneliness of modern life. We named the struggles that weigh on the human heart, the endless chase for success, the exhaustion of comparison, the wounds of relationships, the grip of fear. We did not turn away from suffering. We looked at it directly, because the Buddha taught that only by facing suffering can we find the way to freedom. Then, we traveled step by step through the teachings of release. We explored the power of mindfulness, the gift of presence, the art of letting go. We saw how friendship becomes a mirror, how love becomes unconditional, how compassion must move into action. We learned from the monk and his teacup the truth of impermanence. We discovered the law of karma, the ripples of every choice. And finally, we awakened to the truth of interbeing, that we are not separate, but woven into one vast web of life. Each part was not an isolated lesson. Together, they form a circle. Pain points to the need for presence. Presence leads to letting go. Letting go opens the heart to unconditional love. Love moves outward as compassion. Compassion is grounded in the awareness of impermanence. Impermanence reminds us to choose wisely, for our choices ripple through karma. Karma reveals our deep connection, our interbeing, and interbeing returns us to compassion, to love, to the circle of awakening. This circle is not meant for monks alone. It is not hidden in mountains or monasteries. It belongs to each of us here and now, in the midst of daily life. The teachings are not abstract, they are practical. They are for the mother waking at midnight to comfort her child, for the worker facing stress in the office, for the student overwhelmed by uncertainty, for the elder carrying grief, for the friend seeking meaning. They are for you. And so, the question remains, how will you live? Will you continue clinging to the illusions of permanence, control, and separation? Or will you step into the freedom of presence, compassion, and interbeing? The choice is yours. The Buddha cannot walk it for you. No teacher, no book, no voice can take the steps for you. But the path is here, open, waiting. Perhaps the path feels overwhelming, but remember, it begins with small steps. One mindful breath, one moment of letting go, one act of kindness, one choice to pause instead of react. Each step matters. Each step reshapes the heart. Slowly, the chains grow lighter. Slowly, peace becomes real. You do not need to change your whole life overnight. You only need to practice here and now. When stress rises, breathe. When anger burns, pause. When fear tightens, release. When love appears, nurture it. When compassion calls, act. These small practices, repeated daily, become habits. And habits shape destiny. Do not walk alone. Seek noble friends, companions on the path. Encourage one another. Remind one another. Support one another. A single flame can light 1,000 candles. Together, we shine brighter. Together, we carry one another when the path feels heavy. Together, we embody the truth that none of us is separate. As we close, hold this image in your heart. You are sitting by a river at dawn. The water flows endlessly, never the same, never stopping. You place your hand in the water. You cannot hold it. You cannot freeze it. But you can feel it. You can cherish its coolness. You can drink it. You can let it nourish you. This is life. Flowing, fleeting, precious. You cannot keep it, but you can live it fully. So let us live it fully. Let us love while we can, forgive while we can, give while we can. Let us drop the weight of resentment, open the hand of the heart, and step into freedom. Let us see the cup is already broken, and in that seeing, taste the tea with joy. The Buddha once said, just as the great ocean has but one taste, the taste of salt, so too does my teaching have, but one taste, the taste of freedom. The path you have heard is not about dogma or doctrine. It is about freedom, the freedom to live without chains, to love without fear, to walk with compassion, to rest in peace. This freedom is possible. Not for tomorrow, not for someday, but for now. With each breath, you can choose it. With each step, you can walk it. With each moment, you can embody it. And so, may you walk with mindfulness. May you live with compassion. May you love with an open heart. May you see the interbeing of all things. May you plant seeds of kindness, and may those seeds bloom for generations. May your life be a gift to the world, and may the world be a gift to you. The path is here. The door is open. Step through.